Oh, hi. This week, I figured out the pyramid bag. I'm very excited about this. So a couple videos ago, I showed y'all that I had noodled around with this in a very Einsteinian way. That is giving myself way too much credit. It just made me think of the way he figured out how DNA is twisted the way it is. That's what inspired me to just like fuck around with this strip of fabric. So I thought I'd show y'all how I did this more proper boy. Look at him. Okay, it's really simple, and I have already worn out my voice because I did do our monthly live stream earlier today. Thank you everyone that joined. It was wonderful. I loved hanging out with everybody and catching up and hearing about what you're working on. Talking a lot about Canada is great. So let's jump right into it. I don't know why elbows. Ooh, I forgot this sweater has elbow patches. Not that it's where my elbows are, but you know, you take what you can get. So I initially thought that you started with a square. So my first attempt at noodling was unsuccessful. And then I just decided to try doubling the width, but keeping the same length. The strip I ended up cutting for this of the fashion fabric and then the lining pieces was 18 inches one way and then 9 inches the other way. And as you can see, I didn't actually measure this out. I should have just looked at how big my zipper was and go by that length, but I kind of just cut the strip in half because I figured if I completely botch it, I at least have a second piece to use. And then I kind of folded up one corner to make a square, because when you fold it up in a triangle this way, it makes a square, and then kind of flipped that over and then unfolded the triangle and doubled it. Again, very imprecise. I think this has wiggle room, but you are more than welcome to measure these out more properly. I did have to split my lining piece into 2 pieces, so I added some seam allowance to adjust for that. But I am curious if I had kept it one piece from the start, if the way I top stitched the bag would have worked. It definitely made it easier having it in 2 separate pieces. But anyway, then I grabbed a zipper. I made sure that it actually unzipped and rezipped a bunch of times. Then I made some super basic tabs. I knew this was going to get sewn into the seam in such a way, although it may have made the top end here look a little neater because it is having that little butt problem my other bags were having. So maybe one of the zipper tabs can have basically a bias trim effect where it's like double folded over. But this guy down here didn't need it. Man, I really like these fabrics together with this zipper. It's very pleasing to the eyeball. Sorry, I'm just admiring my own work. Who is she? Once I stitched the tabs on, I then lined up one short edge of the outer fabric to the right side of one side of the zipper. Stitched along there. Then I stitched the lining to the other side, wrong sides together. Then I kind of looped the outer fabric up and around so that the other short edge could go along the other right side of the zipper, meaning the correct side, not necessarily the left, right side. Once I attached that, I had this loop of the outer fabric on the right sides of the zippers. Just the one zipper. Then I attached the other lining piece while kind of moving everything out of the way. And then I was debating how to go about top stitching because I didn't want any seams on this outer fabric piece because I knew that would be in a weird spot. Now, where would that have ended up? I suppose across the bottom is probably where that would have gone, which isn't the end of the world. Why add a seam when you don't have to? I think this will work for most sizes because I've had to do this kind of top stitching on smaller and bigger things than this. I flipped everything out to make sure it was looking how I wanted because again, this little test run is all I had done. I hadn't fucked with the lining at all, so I was just going in rogue. Everything was looking good and manageable so far and like could wrap my head around it. Flipped it back inside out and then top stitched like inside the tube. I don't really know how to describe what I'm doing here, so here's the footage of it happening. I just went down one side, flipped it around and came back. I actually have to sew striping down pant legs on like dress pants and stuff at one of my part-time jobs, and that made me super confident and like unquestioningly able to do this part because this is a much smaller tube than a full-length pant. Don't fear the tube, become the tube. I don't know what's happening. I've talked a lot today. Then once it was top stitched, I made sure the zipper was open and then I stitched the 2 ends of the lining together. So I ended up having these 2 tubes, right? So then I flipped that around. Then it was a matter of taking one of the open ends and folding it flat, making sure the zipper tab was in the center, tossed a pin on there and just stitched straight across it. Having the zipper tabs made this super easy to stitch over. So if you have to shorten a zip, as long as you go slow, you should be fine. Just don't let the needle hit any of the metal bits and that should be okay. I like that my videos are always half me telling you what I did and half me telling you what to do. Well, let's surprise you, I was never good at keeping the same tense when I was writing papers in school. Okay, once that end was stitched, I then took the other open end. Again, make sure your zipper's open. This is where it really, really comes in clutch to have your zipper available to you. I squanched down the other end, but the opposite direction. So the zipper was at one of the ends and not in the center of it. So I just was really careful about folding the ends of the zipper tape. So we're sitting like this with the tab over it. This is the end that I think would be helpful to have that fully bound double fold bias tape edge on here. But I would have had to shorten the zipper or just cut a bigger piece of fabric. Again, maybe measuring things before you start cutting into things would have been helpful. So then I was debating using bias tape that I have hanging around up in a bag up here. I just have a trough of bias tape that I made when I was making fucking face masks. So rather than using bias tape, I went and hit it with my serger just to have nice clean edges on the inside. And then it was just a matter of flipping it right side out. And I took my time pushing the corners out. The upside of these corners is that there's only one seam. It's not like intersecting with anything. So it's actually very easy to push these corners out nice and crisp without like too much effort. And then once I zipped it up, you can see my reaction, and it did the thing I really hoped it would do. And I'm so happy. This was so much fun. I love when I give myself time to just fuck around with things. That was most of the live stream was just me chatting with everybody, which was most of the time, but also just getting my hands in the fabric. And I did end up setting aside a whole pile of fabrics to match together and make more bags out of. And as soon as I grabbed this floral, it was just screaming to be made into a big pyramid bag. Like I said, nice and quick. For once, I said it was a quick project, and it was. I mean, often the projects are quick. I just talk y'all's ear off, so the explanation takes a long time. But we're here to hang out, chill, have fun, make some things. And I've just really enjoyed today, especially because so many of the projects I've done this year have been like big challenges. Like I've set a goal that I've been afraid of and was like, I don't want to do it, but that means I should really do it, because being afraid of it is like generally a good thing. And I've been trying to just throw myself into complicated stuff. And not that this wasn't complicated to figure out, but I just kind of let myself play around with all my stuff and felt like I was indulging my inner kid and just like fuck around with crafts. It was really nice. Today's been lovely. I did get violently ill in the middle of the day for like a good chunk of it, so that wasn't great. It is like 9 o'clock at night the day I did the live stream, because I started that at 10 a.m. Most of my afternoon was not great. Things I would do differently. It didn't even occur to me until I flipped it out that this very much should have had interfacing. I knew that when I thought about it the first time, like when I made this tiny boy, that was definitely on the list of things to add to the other version, but I wanted to try it with a lining, and I suppose one thing at a time is not the worst process. So interfacing, maybe even like fusible fleece, something a little puffier, will add some good structure. But honestly, with the way the seams go in, it's actually standing up on its own surprisingly well. I wasn't really expecting this when I started flipping it out and realized it was not interfaced. The other thing I want is to find a good spot, I suppose just somewhere on this back seam here, right? That actually doesn't seem like a complicated place to add something, but put like a loop, just a little, maybe make like a wrist strap, I suppose, because this size bag I would absolutely carry around. I want to hold something here, carry it around. So yeah, I would definitely add a loop. And then if I ever make these to sell in my Etsy shop, I don't know, I guess this is a question for y'all, because when I open up a bag and I see that it's serged on the inside, I think that's fine, but I know a lot of people finish their bag edges like this with bias tape, which is why I was thinking that earlier, but don't hate this as much as I thought I was going to. If you have feelings about how a bag is finished on the inside, I would love that feedback. Also, speaking of Etsy shop bags, I sold almost all of them the first day I had all the stuff listed last week. And I'm sorry that I look like I'm annoyed about that. I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude, and I just feel very, very thankful. I was very much not expecting that. And I made more sales that day than I did the entirety of last year. And that was 2021 was something I wasn't sure I would come back from. So thank you everybody that bought a bag and bought some jewelry. It means I get to use my new packaging for that. And I'm so fucking excited. We can't end this without thanking everybody over on Patreon, because they're the ones that have let me be able to not have to throw myself into an Etsy shop frenzy for the past year. I've been able to take that time for myself and get better at sewing, and also like mentally work on some shit. And boy howdy have I been working on some shit. It feels nice. It feels nice to be back in the game and not be so stressed. That's also a huge thing that's different than previous me running an Etsy shop, is I'm so proud and so excited to send out those bags, where it used to weigh on me in such a like sick to my stomach kind of way, where I have super pumped anxiety, like when you're going to an event you've been waiting to do, that kind of joy. And the fact that things I've made and put a lot of heart into are gonna be out in the world. And actually, same goes for all of the Patreon gifts that I send out every month, because I do have 2 tiers that have physical perks. Mail time perk, where I send out something every month. And yes, if you were wondering, you will all be getting another round of DJ Bog Troll mix CDs for my birthday month, because it's the new tradition and you're just gonna have to deal with it. And yes, I literally mean burning actual CDs. I have an actual boombox, you know, where it's like the tape deck in the front. There is an auxiliary cord, which, like, growing up, mine didn't have those, and then a CD player on the top. And it also does AM FM radio, because I can't let things die. And I have a mix CD that I made in, I would guess, junior year. And because I'm wildly unhelpful, this is what I named it. Apparently this is the second one. I don't know where the first one is. And I do have 3 of my big binders. I have like 5 or 6 little ones in my truck, because yes, my truck has a CD player and I do listen to CDs regularly. Either that or terrestrial radio, or I plug in this bad boy with an auxiliary cord. I promise I'm not intentionally trying to be a hipster, it's just this still works. I have ways to play the CDs, and I have spent, I don't even want to think about how much money on this music collection. I want to have access to it at all times. It's just nice having physical hard copies of things. Also with my DVDs and Blu-rays, I understand when the power goes out, we have a generator, but if we're trying to watch a movie on streaming or something, you can't do that when there's no internet, which goes out when the power's out. So, you know, we literally bought a generator 10 years ago because we couldn't watch Star Wars. Priorities. Boy, how did I get on this tangent? I don't know. Anyway, uh-oh. Someone heard me getting ready to sign off and needed to come say hello. What do you think of the new bag? Do you want one that's Bert size? He just gave the most microscopic tail wag. So yes, this feels chaotic even though it was a shorter video, but if you want a longer chaotic video, I did bitch about Etsy for like 25 minutes last week. Thank y'all so much for your thoughts and feelings on that video. I'm glad I'm not the only one that feels the way I feel about a lot of those things. I think I will sooner than later look into some alternatives, because it seems to only be getting worse and it's very frustrating. Thanks to everybody for talking me through that one. And I'm sorry that other people are in the same boat as me. It sucks. It sucks. And I hate it. Before I get into another rage about that, I'm gonna head off, and we will see you back here with another video next Friday. Thank you so much for hanging out. If Wordle has taught me anything, it's that English doesn't make any fucking sense.